Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 23 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 23 today for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in Season 1, the finale of this first season on this new game. And thankfully, we actually have a title fight going into this final round. Unlikely, it is Verstappen versus Hamilton 2.0, Red Bull versus Mercedes. Really didn't seem like it. At one stage in the first half of the season, Carlos Sainz and the Ferrari was leading the championship for, I think, a good 6 to 7 races. Verstappen came back through. It seemed like he had all the momentum in the world. At one point, I think he was a good 40 points clear of the next person in the title fight. And then Mercedes have come in absolutely clutch in this last part of the season. Hamilton with 3 wins in the last third of this championship, and it means he's now only 5 points behind Verstappen going into this one. So that's going to be a very exciting thing going for this race. And for us, it's a bit calmer. We've actually done a great job at, combating McLaren and trying to solidify this P5 in the championship. And instead of actually focusing on the on-track issues, we have our own issues off-track in the admin with regards to our teammates' contract. So you guys will know, if you played the game yourself on My Team Career Mode or Driver Career, the game launched with the contract system a little bit broken. The contract system was before Abu Dhabi, as it shouldn't be. It should be after Abu Dhabi, going to the winter break. There was a patch recently on the game that was meant to fix this, but it doesn't seem to be affecting current saves, only new saves, which is a pretty annoying thing because me and you and everyone, we're not going to just start a whole new save just to get this effect in. So it's a little bit unfortunate. So we actually have to think about, our teammate, or, are we going to sign Oscar Piastri? Now, in terms of the funds we have, because we've got reduced cash and we've only got 2 sponsors on the car at the moment, we haven't been able to actually save that much money towards the end of the season. We really need that, championship prize money that comes at the end of the season to really do some good work. So there aren't really many great options anyway when it comes to our teammate. I think this is maybe the toughest part of the entire career compared to last year. We've seen the R&D has been easier than F1 22. Certainly, it would seem the cash and signing teammates seem to be harder on this year's game because I don't really have many great options. And to be honest, after a really great finish for Piastri last time at Las Vegas, I just want to kind of redeem what he's done, kind of pay for the loyalty basically, and re-sign him at least for this one race, then into the end of the season. Sounds a bit silly. And then going into season 2, I will try and see what I can do at kind of instigating a second contract renewal period for myself and for the AI to actually get a proper set of driver transfers for a new season, because it really doesn't make any sense that there's a driver transfer period before the final race of the season. So we go ahead and re-sign Oscar Piastri for this final race. Very silly. And unfortunately, it also means that there are some driver transfers going into Abu Dhabi for the AI as well. Mainly, you may have remembered, Fernando Alonso. He announced he was going to retire in-game after this season. Well, the end of his season has come with the contract renewal. So he is no longer on the grid in McLaren, which is so odd because that would never happen in real life. So to replace him, McLaren have once again a flying Finn driving for them. Valtteri Bottas has been signed by McLaren to go alongside Lando Norris, at least for this final race. To be fair, to be honest, Bottas actually suits the McLaren overalls really, really well, actually. I'm quite surprised, to be honest. And because of that, there is a bit of a domino effect as well, because he left Alfa Romeo, so in his place has gone Nico Hülkenberg, who now drives for Alfa Romeo, and then replacing Hülkenberg at Haas is Logan Sargent. So that's quite a nice twist. The American driver driving for the American team, quite nicely, worked out quite nicely there for him and the team, really. So yeah, Fernando Alonso, no more. He is retired from Formula 1. I'm just really thankful, though, that neither Verstappen or Hamilton got affected by this driver transfer, because I have seen some horror stories from some of you guys, like on Twitter and like Reddit and stuff like that, where people have been in championship fights and they've transferred to a lower team whilst they're in the middle of that championship fight. So thankfully, for our sake, for our save on this series, nothing like that's going to happen, and we can actually have a proper battle between Verstappen and Hamilton in this final race for the championship. And for us, well, maybe our job's even easier now with Bottas alongside Lando, because Fernando Alonso was a very quick AI driver, I must say, so I don't think Bottas will drag the McLaren as high as Fernando was in this last half of the season. But that obviously doesn't mean we're just going to take it easy in this final round. Want to try and finish off the season as strong as we can. We've got quite a lot of traffic in Q1 here, I must say, on our second run. The first one was pretty dismal, to be honest. You're getting used to the circuit with this car, and I feel like we are very much in need of some upgrades. Season 2 can't come soon enough in terms of when we can actually start upgrading this car once again, once we got through that R&D regulation change. But the second run in Q1, another set of soft tyres, despite the traffic, was a massive improvement of about 0.8 of a second there to get us up into P12, and that will hopefully just scrape us by into Q2, where we can maybe try and dial in a little bit more. But Hamilton's right up there, Verstappen as well, good to see. And actually, you may have saw on that R&D chart, Red Bull have made a final upgrade into this race weekend, so they are now once again on paper the best car on the grid, so that might come back into Verstappen's favour. But he's also, as a driver, he's maybe been a bit out of focus as of late. Hamilton and Mercedes have a lot of the momentum, and we know that's such a big thing for the AI, is just building on result after result, and it's all been at Mercedes and Ferrari actually, really, is they've had obviously, you know, back-to-back wins with Leclerc and then Sainz as well. So yeah, Red Bull really need to pull it out to make sure they can finish it across the line in the Drivers' Championship. In the Constructors, I'm going to find it hard to see how Red Bull are going to combat Mercedes with both Russell and Hamilton. Even if they don't win the race, they're going to be up there in the top 5, I would say, unless something mental happens. Let's just find out as we go through the weekend, as we now go to the end of Q2, looking to try and make it through into the top 10 shootout. It's a solid lap for us, and thankfully that is just about enough. Maybe, you know, half a 10th here and we would have been out of qualifying, but we're through. We've beaten the Alpines and the Haas cars, so that's, you know, exactly what we want to be doing, basically. And the Aston Martins, you know, with Lance Stroll not performing too well versus Albon, he's out, we're in. Both McLarens do make it through though, so Bottas having a good first race for McLaren. But, you know, really the focus here in Q3 will be where Lewis Hamilton and Verstappen are going to place for this final race. For us, obviously, I want to try and beat the McLarens, but it's going to be tough. Our car has just been getting slower versus the cars around us, and to be honest, it doesn't feel that great around Yas Marina. I don't think this circuit's suiting our car very much so, and this traffic doesn't help. I don't know what it is with the last patch. The patch notes also said they fixed traffic in qualifying, and I found it very much hasn't. I mean, it was a pretty horrendous lap anyway, because we got on the curb, locked up into turn 1, got a horrendous run into the final corner, but the traffic there with Lando Norris didn't help. But it won't matter in the end. P10, I'll accept that. I think we weren't going to get any higher than around P9 maybe to beat Alexander Albon. But Russell on pole, it's a front row lockout for Mercedes. That is a statement and a half, and Verstappen is down in P6. That is a calamity for the championship leader. Perez is in 3rd place. That's where Max needs to be, minimum there, to try and feel comfortable in this fight with Hamilton. So it's game on then, and the ball is in Mercedes' courts. They're the chasers, but Hamilton already a couple of positions ahead of Max on the grid. Let's go to the final race of Season 1.
It's time then for one final race in this year's Formula One World Championship. 2010 saw 4 drivers in contention for the title coming into this race, with Sebastian Vettel prevailing to become the youngest world champion to date. Is there one last sting in the tail awaiting us today? Well, it's time to find out here at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The Yas Marina circuit is made up of 3.28 miles of track, featuring 16 corners with 2 very long straights. DRS zones going into the heavy braking zones of both turn 5 and turn 7 offer plenty of potential for overtaking. The circuit comes with its fair share of tricky corners, which will certainly test a driver's braking management. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Bottas, Albon, the owner driver, Gasly, Stroll, Perez, Leclerc, Hülkenberg, Oscar Piastri, Drugovich, Liam Lawson, Joe, Ocon, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Sargent, De Vries, Sainz, Verstappen, and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
Certainly confidence is an important factor. And every time you're involved in an incident, it's not just the car you damage, but that confidence as well. But all the top racing drivers are able to tune that out when the race gets underway and focus on the job at hand.
Well, if you thought P6 versus P2 was bad for Verstappen, it just got so much worse. In the final race, Red Bull have some engine penalties to face, and Verstappen is at the back row of this grid. Hamilton is still in the front row. So it really is all for Mercedes, it would seem. Verstappen is going to have to pull off an absolute masterclass to cut through this field to try and limit the damage. You know, he's got that 5-point cushion, so there is still a chance that he can come back to a position that's going to be enough, even if Hamilton's in P2. But if Hamilton can overtake Russell in this first part of the race and go on to win the race, it literally won't matter for you know where Max is. So it is going to be all eyes on Hamilton not to now lose this chance to maybe take the championship in the final race. For us, we start P5 for this final race of the season as we go to 5 red lights to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Lights out and away we go, and it's a great start for Hamilton. Russell slow off pole position. Lewis going for the lead of the race. Bottas from 3rd place in his new McLaren, flying high, keeping the P3. We overtake Alexander Albon to get up into P4. We're now ahead of both Aston Martins. Hamilton couldn't quite get the lead. Russell holds it still, but already you can see the fight there from Hamilton to try and get into P1. And once he's in P1, if he just can stay there, it literally won't matter what kind of miracle comeback Verstappen can do in this race. He'll still win the championship. So, you know, Red Bull going to keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on that. But right now, first and foremost, we're keeping an eye on Albon, who's looking to absolutely send it on the inside there. I really didn't think he was going to commit to the inside line, but he vaulted over the curbs a little bit, Albon did, and now even his teammates involved, the Aston Martins, looking very punchy at the start of this race. Lance Stroll now going around the outside of us. We go defensive, all of us on the medium compound tyre, looking to maybe make the medium to hard strategy work today as Stroll powers through for a pretty impressive overtake, I must say. I was quite surprised he got the jump on us there. I think he used a bit of battery, and for sure, that's definitely into Season 2. Something I want to look at is ERS upgrades, because we don't have enough battery to use in the race, I'm noticing, versus the AI. So that's something they've got the advantage on. We're going to try and make a move on Stroll. He pinches us in and does very well to defend there. Fair play. I really thought he was going to give us the room there, but Stroll is being defiant, and we've already lost about 3 seconds now to Bottas as we continue to fight the Canadian behind. Gasly's now overtaken Albon, and now may have a go at Lance Stroll, because we've overtaken the Canadian, and we actually really compromised his line through the chicane, and so the Frenchman in the Alpine pulls to the outside, tries to get a bit of slipstream off myself as well, to go round the outside of the long left-hander, the new Sector 3 that we're getting used to very much so now at Yas Marina, inviting a bit more racing, I would say, you know, with the flowing nature of these corners now, and it's working for Gasly, and it's working for this battle. They're still side by side. Incredible stuff here in Abu Dhabi in the early laps. Stroll keeps it through in P5, Gasly P6, and Perez is right on the back of him, because also Perez had a grid penalty. Not as bad as Verstappen, but still pretty bad. But Perez has climbed up to P7, and Verstappen from the last row of the grid is already up to P15, to be fair, 4 laps in. That's pretty good progress. If he continues like that, he may well be in the top 4 by the end of the race, and depending on where Hamilton is, if he's still P2, that gives him half a chance to still hold the championship. As on lap 4, we continue to battle with Stroll. Once again, the Aston Martin comes knocking on the door. This time, we're on the outside through the left-hander. On the outside for the right, Stroll over the bump. We give him enough room, and we're going to get the better exit to power through, trying to save as much ERS as we can. But we're going to have to deploy some to stay ahead of him here. But here comes Perez on the outside. The Mexican overtakes both of us. us in one foul swoop, and we're not even going to bother fighting Perez. He's not in our fight. You know, we got up to P5 because of those grid penalties on the grid. This car does not have the pace to stay in P5 the entire race. I am very much just trying to defend as much as I can, and at some point, Stroll, maybe even Gasly and Leclerc will all overtake us, I feel, but we're going to just try our best to continue the fight, because, you know, we can keep up with Stroll in the straights at least, come back at him with a second bite of the cherry of DRS, because even though he's overtaken us, the way the DRS detection point's set up is you can re-overtake, and that's exactly what we're going to do. It's getting a little bit close for comfort, though, as Stroll's moving about a little bit in the straight line towards the brake zone, and this is turning into a fabulous fight. Oh my god. Okay, that was dicey. That was nearly game over for us. So we have a warning for collision with Lance Stroll as he loses the back end. I was just trying to get on power as early as I could. We're going to have to be patient and wait till lap 9 to go for the fake to the left, go to the right. On the outside, Stroll is going to try his hardest to pinch us in, but we're defiant, get the elbows out, and we're going to try and get on the power as early as we can. We've got DRS there, and because we're alongside him already, we're going to power past him and get up into P5 once again. Meanwhile, behind us on the same lap, Verstappen now is making moves on our teammate Piastri to get up into P11 and soon onto the back of Hulkenberg in the new Alfa Romeo of his, and that'll be P10 then. So he's done very, very well actually. This is great progress for him. Lap 12 into the top 10 then, and now Hamilton and Russell are fighting. This could be very important. Hamilton going for the lead of the race, and he's got it. Russell can't put up any defense there with DRS for Hamilton, and so that means Lewis is going to feel very comfortable right now in P1, but if Max comes knocking, if Russell and Hamilton fight too much, you just never know. Never say never in Formula 1, as Gasly now looks to make the overtake. Him and Leclerc have both done Stroll, and now they're the two who get first dibs attacking me for this P5 as we just try and hold back all these drivers. But you can just look at the mini-map and you can just tell I've actually not got that great pace. I am just simply doing the best I can at defending these guys, but the Ferrari, he's in a much quicker car, so he goes by. You're not even going to push him too much, but Gasly, surprisingly, comes through on the outside there. Wasn't really expecting him to follow Leclerc through. We defend him. I'm defending against Gasly because I feel like we should be fighting the Alpines, even in the Aston Martins, even though technically they're the better car. The Astons, you know, the driver pairing hasn't exactly been insane this season, so that's why I'm putting up a much bigger fight on these guys, because I feel like we should be able to fight them, but at some point maybe it's going to just have to bite, as now Albon and Gasly are getting stuck into each other, making contact into the chicane. Leclerc's already pulled away, but can we make the double overtake maybe on Albon and Gasly? I reckon we can have a run here, as we don't have too much battery. We're on single digits, and that's making the difference there. If I had more battery to deploy, I would have been past Albon, but unfortunately, lap 13, I'm sat here looking at the rear wing of the Aston Martin still, and maybe hoping we can just stick with them onto the next lap to then overtake them both on the main straight as we get very close to Albon's rear wing. Verstappen is now behind us in P9, so he was on the back of the grid, and lap 14 he's caught up to us, so that shows the Red Bull does indeed have some very, very decent pace, but it may not be enough versus Hamilton today. But Gasly is going very slow. I mean, we make a very nice shimmy and shake move from right to left, and we catch him unawares to get up into P7. Albon gets away from us though, 1.1 seconds, and Gasly now comes back at us. The Alpine and Red Bull are absolutely rapid, it would seem, in a straight line here. I'm quite surprised by the Alpine. I didn't think they had the engine power for it, but Gasly's staying right on us, but we're going to remain in P7 up until this pit stop then, as we come in along with Verstappen onto the hard tyres, hoping the undercut can work for us, because Gasly stays out, Albon does as well, so I'm hoping we can undercut them and get ahead of them, and I'm not going to fight Verstappen, absolutely not, but hopefully we can stay ahead of those other two guys in this fight. It's only a good turn. I really was quite surprised I didn't get that turn-in nailed, and because of that, I think literally because of that turn-in, Verstappen overtakes us in the pits. To be fair, also Red Bull probably have a quicker pit stop time anyway, so Verstappen's ahead of us, so we don't even need to worry about maybe holding up one of the championship contenders. He's already passed this, and will probably be chasing after Leclerc as quickly as he can. But we're out in P15, plenty of clean air ahead of us in terms of, Verstappen can pull us along a little bit on this straight, but in the corners, I'm sure he's going to pull away from us. So this will probably be the closest we see Verstappen for this entire race in terms of his rear wing there. Obviously, we got familiar with his front end when he was behind us previously, but he's already made that one. Lando Norris also, I didn't really mention, but Norris was also on the people in this race that had an engine penalty. So he was also on the back of the grid with Verstappen. So he's making a bit slower progress, but he's up to P17. He's slowly gaining on us. And here we are then as we go through turn 1. You can see the name tags underneath as that very unique pit exit comes under the circuit. And we've come out ahead of Albon and Gasly. I think Gasly's been overtaken by Ocon, his own teammate, and Lando Norris there. So really big undercut for us. And now, oh, it's a Williams. It's a Williams out in Sector 3. Oh, dreary me. Don't tell Hamilton. He's going to get PTSD. Here's lap 17. Hamilton leads, but this safety car is now out because a Williams has crashed in Sector 3. It really is Hamilton versus Verstappen 2.0 here. I know it's not quite the end of the race yet, but this is certainly going to help Verstappen because now, he doesn't gain an advantage in the pit stops, but we're all bunched up. He's P6, Hamilton is P1, and there's only a handful of cars there now, so it could be game on. 10 laps to go. Can Verstappen get through the 4 cars in front of him? Can Hamilton keep the P1 and just win it no matter what? It's going to be a very interesting one as we go. Green flags once again. We're up in P7 ahead of Albon, like I said, and Gasly's now outside the top 10 even. Ocon P9, I believe Lando Norris is in P10 then. I don't think we'll keep up with this top pack, to be honest. All of them, including Bottas, have some really great race pace in this race. So I think it's just about, for us, trying to solidify the P7 and stay ahead of Albon. Very much, again, just a fight with Aston Martin and Alpine, although this time it's Albon and Ocon rather than Stroll and Gasly. And that Aston Martin is going to keep up with this, so we're having to use a fair bit of battery on this opening lap after the safety car just to kind of stay ahead and try and maybe keep up with Verstappen enough, maybe, to get a bit of DRS off him when that activates again. But I'm sure he'll be racing on to chasing and overtaking Leclerc. And on lap 21, he's already 1.3 seconds down the road, and it's all Albon in terms of our company now here in this race. Again, these Astons are really aggressive through this chicane. Get the elbows out there for Albon as he tries to get the move done, but we stay ahead using a bit of battery to stay ahead as well. I'm just looking at that number going down and down and down. It's not looking great for us. So on lap 23, it's another car stricken. It's Tsunoda this time in Sector 1, and that's going to call out a second safety car just as, I think, on that lap, Verstappen overtook Leclerc. So he's up into P5 then, and this safety car will be out for 2 laps, so we'll be going on to lap 26 by the time we get going here. And Russell's overtaken Hamilton. We've missed this somewhere, but Russell's overtaken Hamilton for the lead. So this means that if Verstappen can get P4, he could keep the championship lead. If Hamilton doesn't overtake Russell, Verstappen can get the championship by simply overtaking Valtteri Bottas. So in a very neat way, the championship for Lewis Hamilton, if he can't overtake Russell, could be in the hands of his old teammate Valtteri Bottas, driving for his old team McLaren. That's quite poetic in a way. Let's see how this ends as we go on to lap 26. Green flags once again. Russell leads from Hamilton to Perez, Valtteri Bottas, Verstappen P5. Verstappen needs to get P4 minimum here if Hamilton stays in P2, and that's how the Dutchman can win the championship. Or Hamilton just needs to overtake Russell for P1 and he'll get the championship no matter what, or if Max just stays in P5. So those are the different permutations of this championship title decider. Verstappen v Hamilton 2.0, and for us it's just the same story of trying to keep P7, although to be fair, Leclerc looks a little bit slow, I reckon we can have a little go at the Ferrari as we're moving all about the shop on the exit of that corner, but plenty of battery. We're actually alongside, we're ahead of the Ferrari into Sector 3, but we get way too ambitious on the brakes, and Leclerc just absolutely does us on the inside there to keep the P6. So I think we know our place. We should probably just stick to trying to keep P7 versus Albon. Norris up into P9 now, Ocon P10, as here we go then, the last lap of the Grand Prix. Russell still leads the race, so Hamilton, he might go for a move here, but right now Hamilton in P2 means that Verstappen, this is it. This is his chance to win the championship. He needs to overtake Bottas, and this is, I gotta tell you, this is as near as he's been to Bottas this entire last stint. You know, just 0.3 of a second. It's never been this close to the flying fin. So can Verstappen do it, or will Bottas be the best ex-teammate ever to Lewis Hamilton here? Because he's actually going for a move on Perez. Bottas refuses to be overtaken. Instead, he's going for a move on the other Red Bull as we just about defend against Albon to keep the P7 on the last lap of the GP. But up the road, Verstappen is still P5. Bottas was going for an attack on Sergio Perez, and so as we draw into this last sector here at Abu Dhabi, season 1 of this career mode, Verstappen has been thwarted by Lewis Hamilton's old teammate in his old team for McLaren, and it won't be going Dutch in 2023. It's going to be going up for Lewis Hamilton as he rounds the final corner. It's P2 on the road, and it's P1 in the championship. Lewis Hamilton is an 8-time world champion. Already, we have rewritten history here and made an alternate F1 universe of our own here in F1 23 My Team Career Mode. Hamilton wins the championship, Mercedes the Constructors' champions, and we come home for a decent P7 for our number 7 on the car.
Well, it's certainly been an incredible year for Formula One, and our drivers have all pushed themselves this season, making it one of the most compelling years of racing in history. There can only be one champion, however, and here they are now, our new Formula One World Drivers' Champion. Victory today then, but bittersweet emotions, I'm sure, as the championship slips through their fingers. Even so, what a fantastic final race of the season this was. Well, Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today, but what set them apart from the rest?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take the top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
I really didn't see this result coming. I really thought, at the start of the season, you would have bet Verstappen would have been on for it like it would be in real life. Halfway through the season, I thought it was going to be Sainz versus Verstappen, but Mercedes in black were the dark horses this season. They've powered through this last part of the season. They take the Constructors' Championship on Red Bull, and Hamilton becomes an 8-time world champion here in this series as we create our own version of Formula One. It's already diverting from real life. I love it. I love it. Really, really great stuff. And for us, P7, very, very solid. Obviously, we definitely are going to hold the P5 versus McLaren. So that's going to be a massive booster for our championship funds for next season. And that's where it really kicks off. Next season, big, big things. Getting to level 2 on a lot of those HQ facilities. Hopefully, maybe signing a new teammate as well. That could send us even further up in terms of points. But we still got a lot of work to do. I mean, Mercedes scoring nearly 700 points, and we were on 200 basically. So there's still a lot of work to do to get up to the top of this F1 grid. And it really seems like, even though the R&D may not be difficult, certainly the funding is going to be a difficulty. But that's all to come in the pre-season video of Season 2. But that is Season Season 1 of this career mode done and dusted, guys. Hamilton wins the championship, and we managed to get P5 in the Constructors. Not too shabby. Guys, if you have enjoyed it, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and get ready for Season 2's pre-season video coming in a couple of days' time, guys. It's going to be a pretty damn exciting one as we start to get some livery mods involved in the series. But till then, guys, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.